Okay, hi everyone. So this is the last lecture before the review session on Wednesday, and then you have your exam 2 on Friday. All right, so as you can see, I have Top Hat set up here. So if you could log in real quickly to, because there's a lot of participation in today's Top Hat or today's presentation as well. All right, so let's bring up our PowerPoint. Yeah, so again, like I said with anatomy, there's no way around it. For anatomy, you just have to practice it on your own time. It's very visual, but hopefully you looked at the study guide that was uploaded on Saturday. And it does narrow down, like I tell you which ones to focus more on the visual identification rather than something like, okay, here's another general rule of thumb. If a muscle name has like 3 or 4 words in it, and it's very tiny, it's less likely I'll actually test you on the anatomy, and I'll test you more on actually the whether you can extract information from the name. Sorry about that. I need to blow my nose. That's why I didn't want to give you the graphic details. Okay, so then again, if you're not logged into Top Hat, please do so already, and let's get on with today's presentation. Okay, so we did like get almost through the entire classifying muscles worksheet, and again, if you don't really like this classifying muscles worksheet, then you don't have to do it. It's not homework, it's totally optional. But if you really like terminology, this is really helpful. Again, why do I have this? Sometimes you can extract information about a muscle without even looking at it. I mean, you should eventually know what it looks like because, I mean, if you're working with the human body, you have to know what it looks like. But when you're starting out, this can be very helpful. Okay, so we left off on size. We talked about this. No pack back this week. Oh, and I will announce. So the thing is that from this week on, I might have it where it's just giving you a week 10 to week whatever. So cumulative with whatever points are left in the semester. So if you want to make up, if you missed a week of pack back, what you can do is post during a free week like this week, or I think Thanksgiving week, or I think week 16. I have to check, but the thing is that you can post during the free weeks to make up points. So if you missed 1 or 2 weeks, you're able to do that by posting on Packback. But again, if you not everyone is required to do that. If you've been keeping up on Packback, you don't have to post this week. Okay. All right, so we left off on locations. So again, locations refer not only to anatomical locations, also sometimes bones, sometimes even bone markings as well. So things that's why you have to know all those locations and bones. It's not just useless trivia. They pay off as there are more systematic naming to sometimes not only muscles, sometimes nerves and other structures of the body are named after anatomical locations. But what do I mean by size? We did kind of hint at that earlier, but let's explain a little more. These aren't the only examples. So what we have here is the adductor group. And what we have here is the adductor brevis. And brevis actually means short. So it's Latin for short. So you may have heard of like brief. That comes from the same root word. Or if you like your SAT vocabulary, when you say someone has a lot of brevity in their writing, they're very, very concise in their writing. So brevis refers to something that's short. And what's the opposite of short? The opposite of short is long, right? Thankfully, the Latin term just sounds a little like more Latinized. So you just add long and just add us at it. It's like pig Latin. So the thing is like longest is the long. So again, that's what it means by that. And then adductor magnus. So remember that foramen magnum? So remember that's a big, big hole in the occipital bone. Well, magnus or major means great or large. So the opposite of that is minus or minor. Now there's no adductor, or there is a adductor minimus, but I'll get to that real soon. But you can't see in this picture. So again, this is what I'm getting at here. So sometimes you have these little other descriptors and adjectives like brevis, meaning short, or longest, meaning long, and magnus, meaning large. So all of these, well, they have the action, right? So the adductors are going to bring the leg back to the midline at the hip. So, but the thing is that what's the difference? Well, not only are they different locations, but they're different relative size. So one is short, one is longer, one is big. Now there is a adductor minimus. Don't worry about this. I won't test you on this, but you know my rule of opposites. So there is something that means like small or minor, but it's part of the adductor magnus. It's actually the superior part of the adductor magnus, but don't worry about that. But if you do see that in some textbooks, or this is the other thing, sometimes there is an opposite, but it doesn't exist in humans, or it's fused in humans. Sometimes you have muscles that are actually separate muscles, like the deltoid. We have one deltoid per arm and shoulder, but the thing is, like in like say the rats, for example, they actually have separated deltoids. So sometimes you, if you're going to veterinary science, sometimes you have to learn additional muscles because sometimes like they're actually different in humans than they are in animals or other animals, I should say. Okay, so why bring this up again? Again, all those root words, all this stuff. Yeah, we know it adducts. It all brings this from the leg from the outside and lateral towards medial. So they all do adduction. But this is a great thing. If you already know all this, you already knocked out 3 of the 5. So this is why I like systematic naming. Why? Because all you have to do is that it cuts down on your work. Now you just have to know gracilis and pectinus. And the things that gracilis, like, actually, that's a kind of a nice vocabulary word to have. If you say someone's gracile, it's like you're saying either skinny or lean, but in a nice way. And look at the gracilis. It's a very skinny and lean muscle. And then the pectinus, well, that kind of leaves it right there. All you have here is the pectinus over here. So just by systematic naming, you know 3 of the 5 adductors. It's already in the name. The gracilis, you just have to know it's part of the group. And same with the pectineus. All right, so let's look at the back of the spinal column. So here we have all the vertebrae and we have all the processes as well. Now, longus again means long. So what we have here are the longus capitis and the longus colli. So capitis refers to the head, so it's another name for it, the head and skull. So it's referring to a long muscle that attaches to the head. And colli is the same root word as collar, so it's referring to the neck. So instead of going to the head and the skull, it's going along the neck. And they're both long muscles. Now, there's something called the longissimus groups. And what we have is the longissimus capitis, longissimus cervicis, and longissimus thoracis. Hey, capitis referring to the head and skull, cervical referring to the neck. I don't know why they called this one colli, this one's cervical. But you already know cervix refers to the neck, and thorax refers to the chest, right? So which is longer? Just look at these two pictures. They're both looking at the posterior of the vertebral column. Which is longer, longus or longissimus? Yeah, so someone said longissimus, and you are correct. So longissimus means longer or longest. In fact, it's so longest, it's actually cropping up, it's scrolling off here. So longissimus is like not just long, it's extra long. But also look at the word itself. It's so long, it's scrolling off the text box right here. So longissimus means longest. It's like the most extreme long. It's the extra long. Or I've never been to the opera because, like, what was it? I think even at Hawaii Opera Theater, like when it was open, it cost like over $100 per ticket. I'm like, oh man, that's too much. But you might have seen in movies or in TV shows where they're clapping after an opera and they're like, bravo, bravo, bravissimo, and whatnot. So it's like being extra bravo, right? So longis and longissimus. So longis is long, but longissimus is very, very long. So again, this longest type there is. So that's what these longissimus groups are. Now, here we have, okay, tensor fascia latae. I love this because it sounds like latte. Okay, do not spell latte with double T's on your lab exam. So it's an incorrect spelling. We'll get wrong. But I'm like, okay, it looks like a small muscle, and this is actually mostly, again, connective tissue here. But it's very important to maintain tension, and look at the fascia, and it's latae. It's toward the side. But lata is actually Latin for wide. So this is one of my favorite muscles because it has a really funny name. So the way I remember it is this way. Okay, you have a friend, and they're so tense and they're so caffeine addicted, they always carry a latte by their hip. Like they're like they have a holster right there. They have the tensor fascia latae. They always carry a latte by their hip because they're so tense, because they want to drink that caffeine when they want. So that's the way I remember where the tensor fascia latae is. It's, again, right below that iliac crest right here. So this is a very important muscle right here. Again, it's lateral and to the side. But lata has come from that Latin term for wide. Now, what do we have here? This is one half, or actually the right side here is cut. But this is the latissimus dorsi, so it should actually span all this way here. Actually, you can see part of it cut here as well. So remember, like long is longest is long, longissimus is longest. So lata is wide, latissimus is widest. So again, latissimus dorsi. So again, dorsi, that's also anatomical landmark and common root word. Dorsum or dorsal refers to the back. So what is it saying? Like lata is wide, latissimus is widest. So it's saying the widest part on your back. So whenever you see a bodybuilder like that doing a lat spread, I mean that latissimus is really wide. It's not just wide, it's widest. And that's what we have here. So the latissimus, that's why they call it the latissimus, because again, it's the widest muscle on your body. All right, so the thing is that what I'm getting at here, again, this is where these aren't the only size descriptors in terms of muscles, but they do tell you like, okay, is it lengthwise, is it widthwise? So it not only gives you a little description of its relative size, but also kind of like whether they're arranged lengthwise or widthwise as well. So they're kind of like size, both size and direction. Again, it's telling you like, okay, are you going to look for a muscle that goes up and down, or that's very long, or very, very long, or are you going to look for a muscle that's more on the wide and toward the sides? So same with the tensor fascia latae. There's no tensor fascia latissimus that I know of, but again, it's just referring to, okay, latae means wide, and latissimus means widest. And again, this is I'm pretty sure I uploaded this part. So the muscle terminology sheet, it really is useful if you like breaking down muscles into different names and root words.